Happy December, everyone. We are heading into definitely the quietest time of the year traditionally in the Ottawa real estate market and the real estate market in general. This is always a pretty slow time of year, and the numbers we're going to look at for November of 2025 definitely reflect that. But there are some interesting trends to pay attention to, especially when we look at the year over year numbers. We've seen a decrease that is even more than we would seasonally expect. So it'll be interesting to check that out and see if that continues into the next month and the first quarter of 2026. Because if so, that could indicate a real shift in where the market is going. As far as what's been going on in the economy to influence the real estate market, there's a couple things to mention. The first is that there is a Bank of Canada meeting that's going to be coming up, but nothing is going to change. Pretty much nobody anticipates any sort of movement in the benchmark rate. So as far as variable rates and that sort of thing, they're going to stay flat for the rest of the year and probably the first bit of 2026. Although for fixed rates, we have seen those increase a little bit over the last little while, which is interesting to note. Fixed rates are generally tied to the underlying bond market, and the bond market is tied to a general sense of risk in the economy. If this is something that continues, that could have a real impact on the real estate market in going into 2026, as a lot of people do choose the fixed rates in times of instability. Lastly, it's worth noting that there was a jobs report for November that was much better than expected. The unemployment rate dropped, I believe, from 6.9 to 6.5%. And given the directionality of the economy lately, it's a little bit surprising to see that unemployment came down and that we've been adding jobs. Although it is probable that a lot of these jobs were part-time, and we want to keep an eye on this trend to see if this is just a blip or if this is something that's actually going to continue. Without further ado, let's get into the numbers themselves. We're going to be looking at slightly different statistics this month. All the categories are going to be the same, but we're going to be using a different program for a couple of reasons that I'll explain once we get into it. But one of the main ones is we can actually look at what the previous month's stats were at the same time we look at the year over year statistics. So it gives us a good idea of the directionality of the trends, and it'll hopefully give us a better picture of what's going on in the real estate market. So let me know what you think of using this data instead, and let's get into it. So as I mentioned, we're going to be looking at the stats a little bit differently this month. There's a couple reasons for that. The first is the Ottawa Real Estate Board. It seems to be getting a little bit longer each month as to how long we have to wait for the report to come out. Today's the 9th, and I still don't think it's been released. It wasn't released when I checked last night. The other thing is the stats here allow us to see not just what the comparison is from last year. So average price, for example, we can see same month last year, there was an increase of 1.9. It also allows us to compare it to the prior month on the same screen. So that's something that's really nice, to be able to look directionally at what's happening month to month rather than just looking at what happened 12 months previous in the same month last year. The other thing that's going to be a little bit different, and is something, again, that I actually like, is if we go into the property type here. So you can see I've got detached, semi-detached, and townhouse or row house selected. And you can see condo townhouse is actually a separate category. So this allows us to filter out everything that doesn't have a condo fee. So we can look at the freeholds and the condos separately, which is something I really miss about the way we used to do the stats through the board. So that's what I'm going to do this month. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think it's better or worse than the stats that I normally do. And let's get into it. So as I mentioned, we're looking at freeholds right now. So this is everything without a condo fee. The average price this month, we're looking at $773 compared to $802 last month. So the average price actually went down a little bit, but it did go up compared to last year, 1.9%. Now, the average price is always something that I say take a little bit with a grain of salt, because a couple of sales in like the $3 to $5 million range could throw off the stats for the entire city. So I think it's more instructive to look at the median price. And as we can see here, we saw a bit of a decrease again. Same directionality as the average price, just a little bit smaller. And for the same month last year, we actually saw the prices go down by 0.7%. Now, where I think it gets really interesting this month is the transaction volume. We saw a decrease of 28, almost 29% compared to last month, which we normally expect heading into November or December. But what surprised me a little bit is the comparison to last year. So this month, in November, I should say, we had 554 sales of freehold properties. In October, we had 779. And last November, we had 691. So we had a decrease of almost 20% November to November. And November 2024 was actually a pretty slow month as well. So the fact that we're seeing that much of a difference, 20% from November to November, is something that I want to keep an eye on, because while this is traditionally a slow month, this is telling me that this is, even amongst slow Novembers, this is a particularly slow one. And we want to see if this is a pattern that continues, because that could indicate a real slowdown in the market. Next thing I wanted to look at was the new transaction or new listings volume. So new listings that came to market. So we saw a 42% decrease to October, which again, we expect a pretty big decrease heading into this time of the year, but that's actually quite a large decrease. And we did see an increase in new listings this November compared to last November. Percentage of properties selling above the listing price is down a little bit, down quite a bit compared to last year. So we're seeing much fewer properties sell over the list price. Much more are selling at list price or below. And that is definitely reflected in what I've been experiencing with my clients over the last little while. List to sold price ratio, no significant changes there. Both are in the 97 to 98 range. Still seeing most places be negotiated slightly below the asking price. Average days on market is pretty consistent as well. We saw it go up a little bit in November compared to October, which is not something that's super surprising. And we saw it go up by 1 day compared to last year. So nothing too crazy there. So shifting gears a little bit now, we're going to be looking at the condos. So condo apartment and condo townhouses together. Average price has gone up or gone down compared to last month very slightly, and gone up slightly compared to last year. Median price went down compared to last month as well as November of last year. As far as transaction volume, we've seen a similar pattern as with the freehold. So compared to last month, we saw a decrease of 17.7%, which is again expected from November to October. We also saw a decrease from last November again, although not quite as pronounced as it was with the freehold properties. Condos were quite slow last year as well. Looking at the percentage of properties that sold above the asking price, pretty low, 7.5 this month, up from last month, but down pretty significantly from last year, down 41%. And that just reflects the slow in the condo market that we have been seeing. Average sold price to list price ratio is a little bit lower than with the freeholds, but in the same range, about 97.4, 97.5% is what we're seeing below the asking price for the average condo that's sold. Average days on market has gone up quite a bit. Even compared to last month, we're up 13% and up 20% compared to last November. So all in all, we're seeing a slowing market for sure. But the interesting thing is it's not just slow compared to last month, which is what we expect heading into this time of year. It's also slow compared to the previous November, which is something that, again, we're going to keep a close eye on. It'll be interesting to see what the stats are like for December. And even more interesting as we head into the new year, because November, December are traditionally kind of weird months, to be honest. And it's always a little bit different. It's always kind of difficult to draw good patterns because there are so few places that sell. But as we head into the first part of 2026, if we continue to see that big decrease from transaction volume compared to the previous year, that's going to be something that's worth paying attention to. As always, if you have any questions, never hesitate to reach out. Thanks again for watching this month's update. I appreciate everybody who's taken the time to watch the updates this year and help the channel grow. If you think you know anybody else who might be interested, do feel free to share. Trying to grow the channel as much as I can, and everybody who spends time, even just a couple of minutes, watching one of my videos and get something out of it, it really does mean a lot. So I appreciate all of you. I wish you all nothing but the absolute best and warmest wishes heading into the holiday season this year. Have a Merry Christmas, and I'll see you all in 2026. Cheers.